Welcome back to another episode of Insights with Experts, where we aim to encourage and foster discussion, learning, and creating an informed global community. To view this and other interviews in detail, head over to theseer.org, linked in the description. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe to our channel for constant updates. Enjoy the episode.
So welcome back to another episode of Insights with Experts. Today we are lucky enough to be joined by Santosh, who is the founder of Mantra4Change. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much for hosting me here.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. First and foremost, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are and where you come from and what you do?
Sure. My name is Santosh More. I come from India. I am an engineer by degree and worked in a corporate for a while before deciding to jump into social space. I started with my Teach for India fellowship program long back in 2009. I was part of the first cohort of Teach for India. And I think Teach for India gave me that opportunity to understand the social fabric, to work with the children, to work with the communities. It was a great learning experience. Post which it was, I think, from my side, it was a clear indication that was coming from within that I should continue in the social space itself. And that's where I continued. I did not go back to the corporate. I continued with the social space and started with a program called the Jagore program in India. Jagore program is basically one of the largest programs run in partnership with the government of India or Election Commission of India towards voter awareness, voter enrollment, and post which 2000 since 2014 it's been Mantra for Change all along. Have been fortunate enough to be a founder of Mantra for Change, have been fortunate enough to be part of a great team at Mantra and working towards systemic change or systemic transformation in education in the country. Yeah, so that's about myself.
Building on a little bit of what you said about Mantra4Change, what is the education inequality like in India, and what do you guys do, as a company to tackle that issue? And, would you consider it a problem that we should be aware of and try and tackle?
Sure. 50% of grade 5 children are not able to read grade 3 text. Then an intelligent extrapolation will basically tell you the kind of problems that we are trying to tackle. And imagine in next 10 years, many of these children would be joining the workforce, and the kind of workforce that we would be having if we are not solving the problem of basic education for these children. And again, to reiterate, Government of India has taken many initiatives to ensure that enrollment of children is there in the school system, to ensure that there is availability of midday meal, there is availability of textbooks, there is availability of free education for all the children. But I think we still need to make go a long way with respect to with respect to solving the problem of quality in education in the country.
I think that the work Mantra4Change does is very moving and very important.
Right.
But I think it's also very interesting that you studied engineering before you moved into this sphere. And I think it's very important for students to understand that whatever you study in university doesn't necessarily mean that that will be your path for the rest of your life. So I actually wanted to ask you, how did you make that switch? And why did you decide to make that switch?
I think one of the interesting things that we should acquire as a competency in ourselves is to be able to see a problem and to be able to come up with a solution for that problem. And I think that's one of the biggest thing that I learned from my engineering times, and also through my corporate experience, that how do you really see the problem, how do you do a root cause analysis, and based on what you are doing you are able to come up with a solution. Or even if you are not able to come up with a solution on your own, are you humble enough to co-create the solution with other people who are experts in that field? And I think that's what any degree should give to us, to see problem, to be able to do root cause analysis of the problem, and to be able to come up with solution. And if we are not able to come up with solution on our own, then being able to co-create it with like-minded people is something that helps. And that's what I would say engineering helps. Engineering helped me in. to be able to do all this. And based on these, I was able to, I would say, um, think about the larger social issues in the country.
The future of education in India, what do you think that looks like as a result of COVID?
So too early to talk about the impact of COVID on education. The data is still coming in. But what I have been reading from some of the reports is that there has been very adverse effects of COVID on education in India. Children were not being able to go to schools, formal schooling system. Although I would like to again commend the government of India for taking many initiatives with respect to online education, with respect to mobilizing civil society organizations to ensure that they are able to go on the ground and wherever possible conduct community classes, conduct different kinds of content which can go onto the online platforms. So I would say, although these different initiatives were taken, but I still feel that a lot of children were deprived of education in its true sense in the last 1 year. It would take a lot of effort. This year is going to be very, very challenging. And I would say this year is going to be very crucial um, in a way how we approach this problem now.
I think as you, as a successful businessman, as a successful individual, you've done a lot of flexibility and a lot of innovation yourself and creating new movements. Um, what would your advice be for students that are trying to look for jobs in different markets?
My advice to students would be, and again, something that I always felt that it's again it's your choice to be an entrepreneur, right? I always promote entrepreneurship. I always tell people that think like an entrepreneur. Do not lose entrepreneurial mindset is what I will tell to every student who is graduating. Entrepreneurial mindset is something which uh, a helps you to keep seeing problem from a different lens altogether and try to come up with solution instead of getting bogged down with the problems that you are facing. Second thing is you would become an asset. If you have an entrepreneurial mindset, then you are going to become an asset. You are not going to be a liability on any company if you're planning to join a job, right? And if you're planning to be an entrepreneur, then that's going to be like you are going to be biggest asset for the society, because I think that way you would be creating jobs. That way you would be giving a lot of people a choice to join you, live with dignity. And hence I would always say, try to be an entrepreneur. If not, then have entrepreneurial mindset.
Hope you're enjoying the episode so far. To learn more about Orakui as well as more information about our upcoming episodes, don't forget to follow our socials for constant updates and education content. Links are always in the description.
So the next question was about sort of, having dipped your toes into so many different like fields, from engineering to even wine. Do you have a sort of favorite? And if so, do you feel more fulfilled pursuing a field which brings you great capital or focuses on a hobby or interest of yours?
My inclination is always towards your hobby and passion. I always
Yeah.
believe that if you chase your passion, everything will follow. So when we started Mantra for Change, we started with $100 capital. That's all. And for 1.5 years, we had only $100 in our account. That's all. 1.5 years, $100. We were surviving on our savings, but Mantra's accounts had only $100. But from that point to reach to a place where we are not talking about $1 million year on year, and now we are talking about $1.5 million and $2 million capital that we have to raise every year. I think it requires a lot of passion. So I would just say that chase your passion. Do not go for easy capital gain right now. Uh, it's a very good age to take risks, right? And I would say that the appetite to take risk should not be lost uh, in when you are trying to chase a high paying job. it won't serve. It won't serve you mentally, emotionally over a longer period of time, and people may feel burnt out after a period of time. So I would suggest go for passion.
What are some challenges that you faced along the way, and when was a moment in your life when you moved to doing Mantra for Change, when you realized, oh, I see this going somewhere and I really feel like this will really take off?
Whenever you are building an organization, and again, first is about the belief that you are onto something big, right? So that belief was there, that both Khushbu and I had always thought that we are here to make a difference and we are here for a big change. It's a long haul. Let's not try to run a sprint, try to run marathon. So that was a underlying thing. And whenever you are planning to run a marathon, you are going to have sprains, you are going to have strain, you are going to have you need to have a lot of mental courage to run a 42-kilometer marathon, right? So we were ready for that. Challenges, in terms of challenges, whenever we are building an organization, we would need many things. We would need culture, we would need capital, we would need human resources, we would need clarity in the work that we are doing, right? So imagine only two people having an audacious vision to be able to transform the education landscape in a country which is so diverse as India, and uh, working day in and day out without a team. So that, first of all, first couple of years were very challenging, right? The capital, there was no visibility of any major funding coming in, but we were there on the ground. Second is, when again, when you start something, you always face the issue of credibility. Who are you? And we were that time dealing with teachers whose experience was equivalent to our age, right? So teachers had 30 years of experience, 35 years of experience, and that our age was about 25, 26 that time when we started visiting the field. So even if you talk to a teacher that these are the new methods, these are the new things, these are the training modules, they will say, who are you? So the credibility was always a challenge in the beginning days. And the third thing that I would always say, building the uh, first layer of leadership team in your organization is very, very challenging. And we had our heartburns, we had our fingers burned when we started building our pool of human resources who would be considered as the leadership team at Mantra. Because when you are building an organization, you are not dependent, you should not be dependent on individuals, right? So Khushbu and I had to be seen as, like, not as whole and soul of Mantra, but we were to be seen as part of the leadership team, but not as everything in the organization. And these three things, I would say, were the major challenge when we were starting the organization: capital, credibility, and the third thing is about human resources.
Yeah, I think that sounds pretty great, and I think that's a pretty good way to sort of keep it down concisely, and condense it into something like quite understandable and digestible. So I think that's pretty much all the questions that we have from our team, except this one last question, which we ask everyone who comes on for any of our interviews, and that is, if you can leave the youth with one piece of advice, what would it be?
Take risk. Take risk. That's the only thing. Have entrepreneurial mindset and take risk. If you won't take risk at this stage of your life, it's very, very difficult to take risk at the age of 35, 40, 45 and all.
Yeah.
That time you are already settled. You would be using your capital, because by that time probably you would have made some capital if you have not taken risk in the earlier period of your life. So I would say take risk, and your risk will pay off if you are passionate about the risk that you are taking.
Yeah.
So
yeah, definitely.
I just believe that's very, very important.
Yeah. So that wraps up the interview. Thank you so much for coming on. It really means the world to us. So
it's my pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much. Thanks for listening in. This podcast has been brought to you by Desare, a platform designed to bridge the gap between the youth and professionals. You can read more about us at desare.org. And you can also check out the section titled Insights with Experts, where you can submit your questions that you might have for future experts and industries that you would like to learn more about. And you can also refer in any experts that you might know yourself.